again, thanks for the patience. We had some technical difficulties up on the hill here in Fultonville. Hopefully the patch cord doesn't get kicked out of the wall and we lose you again, so fingers crossed. My name is Bob Kizek. We're going to do a little presentation today on some options we're going to be adding to the IZMAG flow meter. All right, as we've done with prior WebEx, Friday WebExes, we always cover our mission statement first. So our mission, provide complete sensor solutions and services for hygienic process engineers in dairy, food, and pharmaceutical. And so today's WebEx really drives towards that complete sensor solution aspect. We're adding features and options to the flow meter to more completely offer a flow meter that will meet all applications in processing plants. So the topic is going to be the IZMAG remote flow meter. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, as it's our lead flow meter that Anderson-Negele offers. If you're not familiar with it, just simply understand that this is the flow meter. It's our go-to product when we're talking about measurement of liquid flows, in specific conductive liquid flows. And I would encourage you to get back to our website after this and review the brochure and materials online to get a better understanding of it. Not going to really beat around the bush much on this. This is the new matrix that will be coming out later this month. And it's got several new additions to it that are going to increase our offering and increase the applicability of this flow meter. For starters, calibration. So in the past, calibration carried a single fixed character of 0. And with that, the flow meter followed the rules that we have over all the years. And that would be that when you had a 0, all the meters required that you provide us with the units of measure, with the maximum flow rate, or the 20 milliamp point. They're basically exactly the same. And in addition, we asked for the pulsed output for the meter for both output 1 and output 2. In the future, 0 is still going to have that requirement. So I'm sure you're familiar, if you've ordered a mag, the full technical bulletin on the right-hand side that we have that has to be filled out. In addition, even on the price page, we carry these parameters on the right-hand side and ask the question. Now, when you select this, one of the key aspects is that, of course, this flow meter is specifically calibrated or configured the way that you've asked for it to be, but also the flow test that is done with the flow meter is at 100% of your stated maximum, then at 50% of your maximum, and 10%. So we're fitting and testing the flow meter over the operational range that you've requested. Reasons for doing this and still making this selection in the future are it really simplifies installation. So if you do the work up front, feed us the information with the flow meter, when you get that flow meter, you're going to be able to put it into the process pipe, wire it, and use it. There's no configuration that has to occur. In addition, it optimizes the calibration for the application. So and this becomes really of importance, if you're selecting flow ranges that are below 4% of the operational maximum. And when I get to the next option, you're going to understand why that 4% is important. So what I'm saying is when you go into a low flow application, it's probably best to select custom. However, we're now adding a factory calibration. So in this instance, if you select 1 for your value, what you're going to have is a flow meter that comes to a fixed configuration based on its size. That means it's going to be configured for gallons. That means that the max flow rate, or 20 milliamp point, is going to be equal to the maximum capability for the meter size. So pictured on the table on the right, and usual, for instance, the 50 millimeter meter or 2-inch meter has a capability of up to 300 gallons per minute. And so if you select the factory setting, that meter is going to have its maximum set at 300 gallons per minute. The flow test that we'll perform will still be at 100%, but now that's going to be of the 300 gallons per minute, 50% or 150 gallons per minute, and then 4% or 12 gallons per minute. So you can see that we still have a wide range of the operation confirmed and calibrated for its operation. It's just simply if you're going to spec a 2-inch meter into an application below 12 gallons per minute, you may want to configure that under the custom guidance. In addition to the calibration and the configuration of the 20 milliamps, the PV1 or pulsed output 1 and PV2 or pulsed output 2 are now fixed at 1 pulse per gallon for the first output and 10 pulses per gallon for the second output. Now keep in mind, every flow meter leaves the building with a display, and this can be readily changed in the field with a very easy to use display. So when would we use a factory? Well, the first reason would be if you've got a need for a flow meter to be on site quickly and you don't have the calibration information, by picking factory, you're going to speed up the processing of the order because customer service is able to enter that order immediately. That takes away the delay of waiting for configuration information and potentially losing a window that we establish on the bench to process that meter. Secondly, maybe that final data is not going to be available until all the equipment's already on the job site. This is typical in larger applications or larger projects, I should say, where the final configurations may be determined later, but the need to have the equipment in for fitting is necessary. So we take factory cal. When it gets on site, what they'll simply have to do is configure on site for each application. And then lastly is large orders. Large orders tend not to have the specific detail of unique configuration for each application. You know, you get a skid with a pile full of flow meters on it, and no one wants to have to sort through to pick which one, find the right one, and get it in a location. Instead, you just have them all configured the same and didn't do any specific tweaking that's necessary. So that covers calibration, custom versus factory. We're going to talk about a second new option. That's going to be fitting. This one's a little bit tricky because, of course, the IZMAG is available with tri-clamp for all sizes. So from our 1/2 inch up to our 4-inch standard units, we offer tri-clamp. However, with our 3/4 inch meter, we've always offered a 1-inch tri-clamp connection. And what the fitting option that we're adding is going to give us is a true 3/4 inch connection for a 3/4 inch meter. So if you go back in history, 15 millimeter meters or 3/4 inch meters existed before 3/4 inch pipelines existed. It wasn't until the 1990s that the 3/4 inch tri-clamp was introduced, and even then acceptance and usage is slow in certain areas. So having a 15 millimeter meter that matches or satisfies specific flow needs oftentimes had to have a 1-inch tri-clamp connection to connect to a 1-inch pipeline. However, today, 3/4 inch lines are present. They're starting to become popular, and having the available 3/4 inch mini fitting now means that we have a full selection of flow meters from our 1/2 inch up to our 4-inch that have line size tri-clamp connections. One thing I do want to cover here is the fact that that fitting choice comes under N. So if you're purchasing, or should say specifying an IZMAG, and you're going to select a 15 millimeter meter, and you take S, you're going to get a 1-inch tri-clamp connection, and that's historically the way you would have ordered that meter. So tomorrow, or should say at the end of the month, when you want a 3/4 inch tri-clamp connection, be sure you select N, and that specifically that 15 millimeter meter will have a 3/4 inch tri-clamp. Next option. elastomers. You can see what we've done. We've added Viton. Some of you may have not noticed that we added silicone, so we'll cover all of them in this little session. So which elastomer is right for the application? Since the beginning, the IZMAG has always had EPDM as its standard elastomer for choice. And if we look at this chart, we can see that EPDM has good oil resistance, good chemical resistance. It's not, it suits most applications that we incur, with the exception of temperature. It's rated up to 300 degrees F, and in food processing, or in particular 3A, they only like to see EPDM rated up to 250 degrees F. So that means that in applications of remote IZMAG meters where the temperature operation can actually go above 250, we needed to select an alternative material. About a year ago, we offered or introduced silicone as that offering, and silicone gives us that temperature extension on operation. However, silicone has limitations with certain chemicals. It's a little bit more prone to be eaten by acids and other harsh chemicals that may be used in CIP or other processes. So what we've now done is added Viton as the third choice. Viton combines the high temperature capabilities that we have with silicone, but also adding in that high chemical resistance. So where do we go tomorrow in our choices? For a typical dairy, for an integral meter, I would still recommend selecting the standard EPDM gaskets, or which is something you probably have ordered all along. If you're going to a remote flow meter, and you know this is going to be high temperature, there is a choice. It's between silicone and Viton, and most of the time this defers to what the plant uses. So if the plant is opting for silicone, select silicone. Of course, if they opt for Viton because they know specific components in their products, go with Viton. It's an open-ended choice. You can, of course, pick something like Viton and use it universally. It's just that anything that your customer is going to have as a current configuration number will configure for EPDM, and it makes ordering easier. And the next option, and this is probably the big one of the entire presentation, is going to be meter length. So we do meter lengths basically to make it easy to replace existing products in the field. Historically, the IZM, the IZML, the IZMS all had a very long 13¼ inch length. Due to the design of the product. And these were the predecessors to the IZMAG. So when we introduced the IZMAG, we made it point to offer a 13¼ inch length, so we had direct replacement for our older customers. In addition to that, we also added 9.88 inches to replace certain PD340 sizes, PD340 being the alpha Laval flow meter, historically that plastic square tube meter that has a very short life. What we're going to add to this is going to be a Rosemont 8721 length and an ENH 5053 replacement length. So now if you have a customer who goes down and has a competitive product such as an 8721 or 5053, you can now offer standard Anderson-Negele product in the form of the IZMAG, and you can do it with a very short delivery time, meaning if necessary, we should be able to do this under emergency services. So we should be able to match any competitive ability to provide a flow meter that doesn't require a welder to install, because that is what we're trying to avoid with this. We're trying to avoid having to go and have a welder come on site, cut pipelines, weld fittings on grind. We want something that clamps directly in place. And we now offer that for both Rosemont and ENH flow meters on top of the PD340 and prior Anderson-Negele product. So when the new brochure comes out at the end of the month, on the back side there's a configuration table. This should look familiar. There's going to be two new columns. One is column 3, which relates to the 8721 product, and column 4 relating to the 5053. You can see that there are some sizes missing. In part, this is due because the competitors don't produce meters for those sizes, or it was physically impossible for Anderson-Negele to create an IZMAG to replace an existing meter. And in particular, this is in the size 4. We do not have a 25 millimeter. One thing I do want to point out, and this is just this little note down at the bottom, is somebody should always pull out a tape measure and make sure that our length is going to match what's in the field. Simply because it's an 8721 or 5053 does not mean that what ENH currently specifies as a length is what they were doing 6 months or a year ago. So I always ask that you measure it, confirm it before you order it. So basic summary of what I've presented so far. Anticipated release date for all of these features is going to be August 31st of this year. The new options on calibration can expedite delivery and simplify the ordering process, right? This is the reason we did this, is if you've got to get that meter quick and you can't get the customer to provide the calibration information, let them know you can do this. Hey, just get it factory cal. When it shows up, you'll have to plug in a new Qmax number or a new PV1 value. Gets that unit in the pipeline, satisfies their need to have a flow meter on site. The new fitting choice, giving the direct fit for fractional applications. Right, this basically cleans up our offering in that we can satisfy all known sanitary piping applications from 1/2 inch up to 4 inch. The elastomer choices, this is a best fit situation, mainly driven by application and specific customer needs. So, just understand that even though typically we do EPDM, if you need something else, we have it available. And then lastly, the length options. Use this. This should make the plant life a lot better on the maintenance side as far as replacing flow meters. And again, taking away the cost of having to cut to install our flow meter, taking away one of those key objections to replacing competitive products with our flow meters is always, well, now I've got to go bring a welder in and that's going to cost me. Well, this takes away that objection. Makes it much easier to go and bring us in, brings us directly in a competitive stance. And so that's all I had on the rollout of these options, but don't forget, in about 30 minutes you should receive an email if our internet connection continues here up on the hill. That's going to have the PER for some special discounts on the IZMAG. And I open it up to questions.
everybody, just a reminder, we're going to stay on the line for one more minute. If you have any questions, please type them into chat. If you don't have any questions, that is the end of the presentation, so feel free to log off.
Okay, well, I think we're going to call it. Thank you all for attending. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to tune in 2 weeks for the next topic, which will show up in your email. Bye-bye.